Hello everyone and welcome back. Let's go over the Kil Jaeden fight. The fight we've all been waiting for. We all want to take him down again because we did in Sunwell, but let's make sure that he stays down for good this time. Now this fight has 3 different phases with intermissions in it, so let's do the breakdown per phase. Now tanks, something that's going to happen for you for every single phase is the Fell Claw mechanic, and what that is Kil Jaeden will actually empower his melee attacks and start throwing a stacking debuff on the tank, and these will come in series of 5 hits. Now this debuff makes it so that physical damage hurts a lot, so the 5th hit in Fell Claws is actually going to be a huge hit, so be careful, pop a small cooldown or get ready with some backup healing, something that you need to survive all 5 Fell Claws. There are many strategies right now revolving around Kil Jaeden, so if both of your tanks are geared and can actually take all 5 stacks of the Fell Claws, I would go with that strategy. However, if you're lacking a little bit more gear, get a 2 stack on one tank, have the other tank taunt off, and get a 3 stack on them. This allows you to split the damage a little bit more evenly, but the ideal scenario for this debuff is to just take all 5 stacks. Something that's very important in this fight is positioning. You have a big platform here, but every now and then there's going to be bombs that push you away, knock you back, and if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, you can actually just get knocked off the platform and wipe. So ideally what you want to do is keep Kil Jaeden right near the middle up until the very last phase of the fight. This allows you to get knocked back in any direction and stay on the platform. However, for the first bomb that actually drops in the middle, you do not want to be standing inside of the AoE for that bomb. That will one-shot you. One other mechanic that you're going to have to be dealing with the entire fight is Armageddon. Now what happens is meteors are summoned onto the platform where you are. The large majority of them are small swirls, but there is one that is a really big swirl. This swirl is going to hit for 14 million physical damage, and so you have 3 different ways of soaking this big Armageddon. The first way is to use the off tank that does not have the Fell Claw debuff to go tank it. The second way is to actually 3 tank this fight and have 1 tank dedicated to big Armageddons. And the third way is to actually have the rest of the raid, your healers and your DPSers, soak up this big debuff. However, they will have to rotate using immunities or really big defensive cooldowns in order to survive this big Armageddon blast. If these Armageddon blasts are not soaked, they will do huge raid-wide damage leading to wipes. So make sure you soak up every single Armageddon hit, and just remember that the tanks can soak up the big one, or you can 3 tank this fight. Now DPS and healers in phase 1, remember to soak Armageddon. If you're soaking one of the smaller Armageddons, you don't need to pop any cooldowns or any defensives or anything like that. You should be able to mitigate that damage just fine. Just don't run out prematurely, stay in that swirl until it hits. And if you are soaking the really big Armageddon, use an immunity or a really big defensive cooldown. Also, throughout this entire fight, you want to stack right behind Kil Jaeden. You don't want to be ranged, you don't want to be near the edge of any platform. The only time this is acceptable is during the very last phase. So stack up right behind Kil Jaeden and only move out for Armageddon. There is also another mechanic with bombs dropping on different parts of the platform. If a bomb drops on the platform, you cannot be standing directly underneath it or it will kill you, and what it will do is actually knock you away from it. So make sure you're positioned somewhere in the platform where even if that bomb lands and knocks you away, you won't actually fall off the platform. A good rule of thumb is to try to stay near the middle as much as possible throughout the fight. Now right after phase 1 we have the first intermission, and during this intermission what you have to do is just soak the Armageddons like you've been doing before, but now the tanks can actually soak the big Armageddons no problem. They do not have a debuff on them, and Kil Jaeden will target someone with a beam. Now the raid needs to go and stand in between this person and Kil Jaeden and actually split that damage. And the last thing, you have to spread out for the fire debuff. People will get this fire debuff, big AoE around them. Just spread out and try not to be in anyone else's AoE. Now phase 2 for the tanks is exactly the same as phase 1, so tanks, no new mechanics for you to worry about. So just keep taunting off for the Fell Claws once it hits 5 stacks, and keep soaking up the big Armageddons, unless you're doing that with immunity DPSers. DPS and healers, you still have to deal with the Armageddon that gets sent out everywhere, but now during this phase you also have to deal with additional mechanics. You did see them in the intermission, so we do have the fire debuff that gets sent out and you have to spread out, and you also have the fell beam that focuses one person. You do have to stand in between them and Kil Jaeden to split that damage. Something else that has not been seen is 3 DPSers will get picked at random and get a debuff where they turn into giant people people and actually spawn an ad. If you get this debuff that turns you huge, stack up on melee, make sure you're right behind Kil Jaeden, stack up all 3 of these debuffs, and when the ads spawn, focus them first. Ads are #1 priority. You want them to get off the least amount of cast as possible. Now after this phase, we do have the second intermission, and with this intermission what you have to do is actually the whole raid has to split up and try to find Illidan in this darkness. Once you found Illidan, you can ping your minimap or let everybody know on voice chat exactly where Illidan is. And what Illidan does is he has a debuff underneath him. You have to run into it, get that debuff, it's 20 seconds, and for 20 seconds you can actually see the platform and DPS all of the ads on it. So run underneath Illidan, get this debuff, run out from underneath Illidan so you don't constantly stand in it, and start DPSing these ads down as quickly as you can. They also can be interrupted so you can lower the amount of damage that they do. When your buff is at around 3 seconds or so, you do want to run back to Illidan and get your buff again, because if the buff falls off of you, then you won't have vision anymore. So remember to keep that dot uptime as close to 100% as possible, but don't just stand inside of it with Illidan. Run in, run out. Now once this intermission is done, you are at the final phase, phase 3. Now immediately upon entering phase 3, Kil Jaeden does cast Darkness of 1,000 Souls, and this has huge raid-wide damage. So if you have any defensive cooldowns left over, this is the time to use them and start getting some overhealing done. Now for tanks, the Fell Claw mechanic is still the same, you still have to deal with that. During this phase, he actually does summon these pillars, and if you take a look at the pillars here, they do happen to have 4 spikes coming out of them, and in the direction of those spikes will shoot out a fell beam that's as big as the platform. This fell beam will do a lot of damage and knock you back. So for tanks, make sure you can position the boss in a way where no one is going to get hit by these fell beams. So keep an eye out and position Kil Jaeden accordingly. When he does start summoning rifts, which look like this, you do want to tank Kil Jaeden somewhere near the rift, just because when he starts casting, you have about 3 or 4 seconds to run into that rift and hide. So tank somewhere close enough where you can run in within 3 seconds. Now once Kil Jaeden is actually casting Darkness of 1,000 Souls, you have to make sure that you are within the rift when that cast is completed. You also just want to be within the edge of the rift. If you go too far in, you'll get sucked up and die. DPS and healers, make sure you stay away from the pillars. Again, the pillars shoot fell beams out in a cross, and this cross corresponds with the spikes that are on the pillars. So make sure you look at the platform, don't get knocked off like this, and don't take unnecessary damage from these pillars. Also, when a rift does spawn, you have to be near it, try to DPS somewhere close to the rift, work your way over there, or gradually let yourself be worked over there to the rift. And when he does start casting Darkness of 1,000 Souls, run into the edge of the rift, make sure you have the debuff, and once his cast is done, you can go ahead and run out. One last thing during this phase is to keep spreading out during that fire debuff. That is still being handed out. Well, I hope this helped. I hope you guys have enjoyed all of my boss guides here for Tomb of Sargeras. I want to thank you all for watching, and if you like what I do, want to help support me, go ahead and visit my Patreon down below. I do live stream on Wednesdays here on YouTube, and actually live stream on Thursdays or Fridays over on Twitch, so go ahead and give me a follow there. And if you want to check out any other boss guides, I will be starting heroic mode boss guides soon, so be on the lookout for those. I will create a playlist, and as always, good luck out there.